Welcome back, traders, to some more back testing. We've had a lot of good wins lately, so I'm really getting the confidence in this model. But you know, wins can't last forever. We're bound to take a loss sooner or later, but that'll be okay as long as I just maintain my risk level. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. This is February 9th. That was the previous Friday. And just taking a look at the daily chart, you can see that we've already reached that projected target. Now, here's the thing. We don't have another target since we're at all-time highs. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and do another projection with the most recent swing low here to the high. And we could look for this -1 standard deviation as the new target. Now, if we do start going down lower, I can aim for this swing low down here. But currently on the higher time frame, I am still going to keep a bullish bias. Looking at the hourly chart, we're pretty much in this range right here. We have the previous week high, and then this is going to be the low that was made on Sunday. Looking at the 15 minutes, we're pretty much in a tight consolidation here. We did dip down, but we did not go back into this 15-minute fair value gap. So at 8:30 or 9:30, I want to see the market come down at least below this low and into this fair value gap at a minimum. We could come down and take out these lows down here. I'm not really expecting the Sunday low to get taken, but that can happen as well. And then once we get a shift, I'll be taking a long, looking for these highs as my first partial, the previous week high, and then later, if I do have any more contracts left, any higher projection levels. So at 8:45, we did drop down into that 15-minute fair value gap. Now I'm wanting to see, are we going to take out this high for a shift, or will we go down lower for these relative lows? Okay, so just after 9:30's opening bell, this probably give us a shift that we want. We did drop down to take these lows as well, and then we shifted above this high and this high here, creating rather large fair value gap. But this could be good enough for me to take along for these relative highs as long as this fair value gap remain intact. Let's go ahead and just go 5 minutes forward just to see if the fair value gap remains intact. Okay, so here we go. We're going to go ahead and take an entry. We do have a small fair value gap right here. So if we take a long here at 32.50 and place our stop at the low, so that'll give us about 25 points of risk. Let me see how many contracts I can take with that. Okay, so with that risk, I can only take 2 contracts to remain under that 1% risk. The price action so far is not looking good, but I'm gonna go ahead and take a stab at it anyways. I'm hoping that we stay above 50% of this lower wick, and then I want to see a rally above this high, and I'm gonna take off my first partial above these relative highs. Okay, so initially it wasn't looking good, but we remained above 50% of this wick. You can see the bodies of the candle are respecting it. This candle even wicked into it just slightly, and then we are now above this fair value gap, or above this down candle. So we do technically have a change in the state delivery as well. So I'm really hopeful that we're gonna go for those highs, and if we do take it, then I'm gonna go ahead and put my stop to break even. All right, so 1040, really sloppy price action. I'll be honest, if I was in a live trade, I would really be nervous with all this up and down movement, but with my stop loss here, that's where the trade will be invalid. And right now it's rallying up. I'm really hopeful it's going to take these relative highs now. So I'll be looking to take off my partial here and moving my stop loss up. Okay, 1050, went ahead and take 1 contract off. I'll have 1 more running, and I'm going to go ahead and move my stop loss up. Let me just go ahead and count out 3 PD arrays. Here's a fair value gap, volume imbalance, and this is a pretty nice balanced price range, but we do have a fair value gap here as well. So 3 PD arrays, and I don't want this to get taken. And by having my stop here, this is also going to be above my entry, so I'm going to be at least a little bit in the positive should it get stopped out. And of course, quickly after, we do hit our second partial, so definitely out for the day. Going to take a look at the rest of the day's price action, but pretty done with this trade. We did make out, but it wasn't that humongous. The first partial was 1-to-1 and then 1.5 to 1 reward to risk. So pretty good, pretty good. But yeah, done for the day, and let's check out the rest of the day's price action. So end of the day, you can see that after taking out the previous week high, we did consolidate for a little bit before dropping off in the afternoon for a low on the day. So with it closing down on the day, is it enough to change my bias? Looking at the daily, I'm gonna say no. We still have this fair value gap, so I'm gonna keep my eye on this one on the daily chart. And then we do have another one below. I'm just gonna go ahead and copy this. So I'm gonna keep my eye on both of these fair value gap, and as long as these are holding up as support, the bias should still remain bullish. Now, if we start going underneath and I'm starting to see inversion on these, then I'll be looking for this low or maybe this volume imbalance first of all. But until that happens, still going to remain a bullish bias going into this, going to the next day. Okay, so Tuesday morning, and looking at the hourly chart, you can see that yesterday we got a liquidity sweep right here on the buy side, and then we dropped down pretty sharply, creating this fair value gap. I'm looking at this as a breakaway gap. We have consolidation here, and then we're kind of going down. We went into this first daily fair value gap, kind of bounced off of it and consolidated above it, but you can see that pre-market or during the London session, we pretty much displaced straight through it, and now we are below it. You can even see on this hourly candle, we went up to kind of use it as inversion before coming down. So with this low here and this daily fair value gap, I think we're gonna definitely go into it. If we do get a retracement back up into this 1 hour SIBI, and then I start seeing a little bit of displacement lower, I think I'm gonna go ahead and aim for this daily fair value gap for a short. But if we do start getting above this 1 hour fair value gap and start using it as support, then I'll be looking for this 1 hour fair value gap, to get tapped into, so I can go for a long. So kind of neutral today. Just gonna wait for price. I think, let's see, wait for 9:30 to see exactly where it's gonna go to. So we had some big news at 8:30. Don't know what it was, but apparently we had some big news because we had a really large drop down at 8:30. I'm gonna go to the hourly chart. I think the momentum has shifted to the downside. I'm looking at these relative lows here. I think price is gonna be looking for the sell side below those lows. So if we can get some sort of retracement in here, I think I'm going to go ahead and try for a short going down there. But right now, nothing has really developed. I'm going to have to wait for some kind of setup to build up here before taking that short. All right, so 9:30 didn't really give us much, but we are getting close to 10:30, and we've rallied back up into this SIBI. So if we have a change in the state of delivery below the opening price on this candle, or if we have some sort of displacement lower and we have a fair value gap, then that's where I'll be looking to enter for a short. And this is going to be that relative lows on the hourly chart. I think right here, this is going to be what I aim for. This is the 15-minute chart, but these relative lows, I'm going to be aiming for this as the profit target. It could go lower, but I'm just going to play it safe, and this will be my final cutoff. Getting close to 11 o'clock, you can see we rallied back up to that daily fair value gap. It's kind of bumping into it, and now it's leaving it. So it looks like it could be using that daily fair value gap as inversion. So yesterday I mentioned that if we start seeing inversion on these daily fair value gaps, I'll be looking to go short. So that's what I'm going to be looking for. If we get a fair value gap now, I could go ahead and take a chance on the next one. All right, so we're getting really close to 12 o'clock. And we finally got a fair value gap here now, and you can see it like tapped into that daily fair value gap as well before creating this one. Now technically it hasn't closed just yet, or the candle hasn't formed yet, so we may or may not have a fair value gap here. I'm just gonna go ahead and go 5 minutes more. Let's do 12:01. See if we get a fair value gap here. Now it is getting really late, so if I do enter, I may just go half size because my time window is pretty much over. But let's go ahead and give it a shot. I'm just going to do 0.5% here, and I'll be aiming for, well, I guess this low, this, I don't know. I guess we'll try to see if we'll hold for those relative lows, but let's see if we even get entered into the trade. Okay, it is 12:15, and we never really got into that trade. So my window of time is done. No trades for today, although this could potentially still go in and trade down to the lows in the afternoon session. I'll take a look at the end of the day to see if that actually happened or not, but no trades for me today. So as you can see, at the end of the day, we did get into those relative lows, but we never returned back into this entry right here after tapping into the daily fair value gap as inversion. So this trade would not have worked out, but there was another opportunity to get in here short. This was around 1 o'clock, 1:30-ish, and then it did drop down. This was your last opportunity to go for the sell side. But anyways, no trades for me today. Let's move on to the next day. Wednesday, February 14th, Valentine's Day. And you can see that price has rallied back up into this 4-hour SIBI. So I'm looking at the price, and we took out the sell side yesterday. So I'm going to go ahead and move my target. If we are going to go lower as our bias has shifted, I will be aiming for this low, perhaps going back into this large fair value gap. But currently we're going into a SIBI. Let's take a look at the hourly to see if anything on the 1-hour chart. Okay, so we went above this high. I technically don't really want to see price go above this 4-hour SIBI, so but it could reach for this 1-hour fair value gap. Definitely want to see some sort of displacement. I want to see this low get taken out, and then if that happens, we'll definitely be looking for a short for that target. This will probably be a partial, and then these lows here, so this will probably be a partial as well. Getting close to 8:30, we are dropping and we created a fair value gap, but I don't really like how we have relative highs here. I'm gonna wait for 8:30, maybe even 9:30, see if we can sweep these relative highs and then have a displacement. Now, if we start going down below this low, I don't know, it's going to be a little iffy. I'm going to wait for confirmation. If we go back into this fair value gap and we get confirmation without taking out this low, I'll go ahead and try to give it a shot. But if this low gets taken, I want to see price come up and take both of these highs first. Okay, so it's getting close to 9 o'clock. It does look like we have a potential fair value gap here. It did not take out this low. It did come back up into this fair value gap, and technically this candle is not done forming, so I'm going to go ahead and go to 901 to see if we have this fair value gap here or not. And if we do, I'll probably try and do an entry, but as you can see, it closed up all the way, so there is no short entry. Gonna wait to see if these highs get swept. So here, a little bit after 9:30, you can see that at the opening bell, we did sweep those relative highs, and now we are starting to go down for this low. I don't mind now if this low gets taken. I think if it does, there's a good chance we'll definitely go ahead and go into this fair value gap. But look at these relative equal lows right here. Definitely gonna be taking a using this as my final target. But we do also have lower targets. Could try to aim for lower, but this is definitely the safe one. 9:45, we did create a fair value gap. I'm gonna go ahead and give this a shot. Looking for price to drop down into this fair value gap. I'm gonna take my first partial here, and then I'm looking for this to be my second partial, perhaps even my final target, depending on how many contracts I have left. Because looking at the 1-hour chart, the next place I will go to would be, well, probably this rejection block here, but that's quite a ways away. I think taking one off here and one off here, and then if I have any left, I'll try to let it run, but we'll see what the risk is. So doing the calculations, this is actually a pretty large risk. It's going to be 41 points. So unfortunately, I can only take one contract, so I'll go ahead and take just one, and I'll look to offload it here. Or the other option is once it gets here, I could just move it to stop loss to see my stop loss to break even, and then see if we can run for these lows. So I'm gonna give it a little bit, and then I'll see whether or not I want to do that, or if I'll just take it off here. Okay, 10:25 or so. Okay, we did not get that drop down here. Instead we did take a higher high, so we did get stopped out here. Took another loss today. It's been a while, but yeah, I mean, we can't win them all, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and record that, and I'll see if we get another chance to go short. In order for me to do that, seeing all these highs get taken, we need to drop down and create a shift either below this low, or we can use this fair value gap as inversion. Okay, so we're starting to drop down. We haven't changed this day delivery below the opening price on this up candle. You can see we came back down below this fair value gap. We created another one. Now I want to wait to see if this is going to give me confirmation. I mean, I guess I could try to enter. Let's see what the price would be. If I try to enter on this fair value gap with this high, this is going to give me about 30 points of risk. Which, yeah, I mean, it's fair to take, but I think I'm going to try and wait for confirmation. Okay, so getting close to 11 o'clock, and you can see that we never got back into that fair value gap. So this is, and we dropped off and potentially created another fair value gap. So this is telling me that we are quite weak right now. If this fair value gap stays intact, I will go ahead and take it, with my risk being up here above, well, I guess it could be down here, but you know, I'm going to keep up here, just have a, you know, conservative risk. It's going to be 808, so 7, so this is going to be about 30 points. So if this fair value gap remains intact, I'll go ahead and give this a shot short. Okay, so never really got a retracement back into this fair value gap. Instead, it dropped down lower, taking out this low, went back into this fair value gap. So I'm wanting to see some sort of a bounce here. Now, I'm probably not going to get an entry back up here, but there's a potential entry here in this fair value gap. It's a pretty big one. Lines up with this low, higher high here. We have a breaker. So we could trade here. Let me go ahead and draw out the risk. So if I were to trade this breaker entering at the low and then just using the body at the high right here as the stop loss, this is going to give me like 37 points of risk or so, which is quite a lot. I want to keep it close to around 27 since we took that earlier loss. So I think what I can do is I can wait for, you know, price to go up here, wait for confirmation, get another fair value gap, and if that have a lower risk, then I can go ahead and take that one. But the risk here is not really acceptable according to my model, so I'm gonna let this one pass by. But if we do get a confirmation fair value gap, I could try and enter on that one. Okay, 11:45, getting kind of late in the day, but I like seeing this fair value gap. We did go back into the breaker, and then this is potentially a fair value gap here. So I'm going to wait for it to close, but if we do close, I could give this a shot, entering short here with my risk at the high. This is going to be about 24 points, so that is good enough to take a trade. I could get one contract, and if we get a smaller closure, I don't know, I doubt I'll get two contracts, but at least I could get one contract for a 0.5% risk. So that fair value gap did stay intact, so I went ahead and entered in here with my risk up at the highs. This is good enough for just one contract. Now I do want to see price come down for these relative lows, but considering that it's pretty much already 12 o'clock, I don't think it can do very much. I mean, it may not even take this low out. So, but I think if it take out this low here, let me stretch it out. If it take out this low, then I will consider moving my stop to break even. And then if taking out this low, I think I'll just go ahead and close it out for a as my first partial on the one contract. Also, I did take a loss earlier in the day, so it would be nice to just recover some of it. Gonna not try and swing for the fences and just basically it's like a mitigation move here, just recovering some of my losses. Okay, very nice. After 5-10 more minutes, we did come down below this low, so I went ahead and just took the trade off. It looks pretty strong. If this fair value gap can maintain, we could go down for these relative lows. If I had two contracts, I'll take off one here and I'll try to hold the other one for this low. But since I was only able to get one contract, I went ahead and just closed out the entire trade since, well, I mean, that's all the size I have, right? Take it off at the first partial. But let's go ahead and see what the rest of the day looks like. Okay, wow, at the end of the day, this is what it looks like. After taking out that low, it never really got down to those relative lows. Instead, it totally reversed. And if I would have stayed, I would have gotten stopped out, but it went back into this daily fair value gap, came back down into this fair value gap, danced around a little bit, and ultimately rallied in the afternoon for a close on the highs. So I'm going to take a look at the daily chart, see if the bias has shifted at all. We came down and I don't know, I guess it took out these lows right here. Didn't really go into any inefficiencies, so we did create a small little fair value gap here. I'm gonna clean this up. Okay, cleaning this up a little bit. I'm still looking at this BISI here, and it's overlapped with this SIBI. So that's why you see a little bit of this, like, you know, yellowish kind of color right here. So definitely want to keep an eye on this area going into the next day. We did drop down, but didn't really go into any inefficiencies. You can see that we had to close this day and open this day, so was probably going into this previous gap. It would just wick through it, and now we're starting to rally, but not sure. It's going to be pretty unclear because we did have a change in the state to deliver to the downside, but the overall trend is still bullish, and we could still be coming up to this projection right here. Remember, that was a projection from this low to this high. So I think going into the next day, I'm going to be neutral. I think this fair value gap here is going to play a big role. I'm going to keep my eye on that into the next day. Thursday, February 15th. And it's going to be kind of hard to say on where the bias is today because we just rallied up back into this fair value gap and we're kind of consolidating in it. So not really sure if we want to go to the upside or to the downside. There is this fair value gap here as well. Keep that in mind. I'm not going to label it, but I'll keep it in mind. The short-term trend looks like bearish. We could take these highs, probably go back into this fair value gap, or we can start going down, displacing below this low. I think it's really hard to say. Today may be a no trade day just because it's so hard to tell what the direction is. I'm going to go ahead and give it some time, look at what 830, what 930 is going to present, and I may just like do a little scalp or something. So 830, we went down, took out the sell side here, and then we went up to take the buy side. So both sides has been swept so far, leaving a fair value gap. I'm gonna keep my eye on this fair value gap to see how it's treated, but you know, pretty much within that daily, like, you know, SIBI and BISI, the balanced price range. If we start seeing confirmation to the upside, I guess I can consider taking it and then aiming for what would I aim for? Let me just zoom out a little bit. Aim for perhaps this high. I think that would be a reasonable target to go for. If we go lower, we do have these relatively smooth lows right here, but as you can see, not a big range. Like I said, today may just be a scalp day because it's kind of tight in this, like, you know, ambiguous area. So that fair value gap did not hold up. It's still before 930's opening bell. We did create another fair value gap with SIBI onto the downside. We'll see if this gives us confirmation, and we're probably looking for these relative lows down here to get taken. 930 opening bell. So this SIBI did hold up. However, there was no, I was waiting for confirmation. There was no fair value gap to confirm. We took out these relative lows. Are we going to be taking out this low? Well, no fair value gap here just yet, but let's just go ahead and see a little bit. We want to just wait a little bit longer. Okay, so no fair value gap, but we did take these lows. Zooming out a bit, you can see that there's not really any inefficiencies here to go for or any relative lows. So, I mean, it does look like it may want to go short, but it doesn't really make sense. I don't have any obvious target. Definitely going to have to wait for confirmation. Whereas on the upside, we do have this target here. If we go to the hourly chart, remember it's going to be this high. We did go into this fair value gap only 1 hour, so definitely going to need to see some sort of displacement, strong moves to the upside. If we do get past this, we could go for this small fair value gap or even this larger one. I'm kind of feeling this day may be a no trade day, but I'm going to go ahead and continue with the price action. All right, 10 o'clock, we did create another fair value gap here. You could try to take a trade here with your risk up here and then have an entry down here, but this is going to be about 40 points of risk, pretty large. And I'm not so sure since we already took out the sell side liquidity down here, and I don't have any obvious targets to aim for, so don't really want to be taking this. But if we do get confirmation, I guess we could try to take a short. The only thing I see is longer term, these relative lows right here look pretty nice with this swing low, but yeah, I'm not really excited to take this one, but perhaps if we get confirmation. Now, I think what's more ideal for me is to go for the upside, but for that to happen, we need to, you know, we need to fill in this fair value gap and perhaps even use it as inversion. So drawing this out, I want to see price go above this fair value gap and use it as support. And if we can get confirmation like that, then I could take a long aim for this high and this high right here. But other than that, I'm not really excited to take any shorts, honestly. I'm not even excited to take any longs, but we'll see what the price action does around this fair value gap. Okay, so we do get a trade above that fair value gap. Can we use it as inversion? We do have another fair value gap here. So I want to see price come down either into this fair value gap or this one, or use the inversion. Ideally use the inversion. And if we get confirmation, then I'll enter long into the next fair value gap. And this is not what I want to see. Price trade back through the fair value gap, and now it's kind of like touching the bottom of it, and looks like it could be a reclaimed fair value gap. So like I said, kind of a neutral bias, really hard to trade. I'm not really seeing any clear direction, so probably no trades for me. 11 o'clock, we did go back above that fair value gap once again, and then we dipped down, displaced lower, taking out this low. Now, if this low was not taken and we create a fair value gap, I could look to take that short, aiming for this low as the first partial, and then I'll have to go to a higher time frame for lower targets, but I don't have any clear ones. But since this low has already been taken, I'm not super excited to take this fair value gap. And as you can see, as we get closer to 12 o'clock, we just slowly grind up, filling in this fair value gap. It was not successful. And we are starting to go, I think we're going to have some sort of a reversal on, not reversal, but retracement above these highs right here to take out all the short traders that were profitable during the morning session. As we get into lunch, I think they want to clear out the liquidity here internally. 12:15, so that's pretty much it for my time window. We did take out this high and this high. This high looks like it could be next, but yeah, pretty choppy session in the morning after 9:30. The initial drop, I didn't really see much opportunity except for possibly this one, but it was not really like that good. So anyways, no trade today. Let's go ahead and take a look at the end of the day, and we'll go into last day Friday. So in the afternoon, we did get that reversal that I was looking for. I was looking for this price, right? So we chopped around a little bit, created this fair value gap during the lunch hour. Then around 1 o'clock, we came back down, I guess, into this breaker here, low, high, lower, low. So this breaker right here, and then we displaced higher, creating a few fair value gap. And then afternoon session was pretty choppy as well. It pretty much did nothing until like last 10 minutes, before the 4 o'clock close. So pretty tough day to trade. If it was live action, I would really just like to avoid today altogether. Okay, last day Friday, February 16th. I'm looking at this fair value gap on the 1 hour chart. You can see that we traded above those daily fair value gap, even came down here. I think it tapped it at the highs. So I'm looking at this as support. Don't want to see price go below this daily fair value gap. And we've taken out this high once again, took out this high. And now I'm looking at this 1 hour fair value gap. If we get above it, I think we could take out this high from, I believe it was Monday's high. Definitely take that out. So I'll mark that out. That could be the buy side. And of course, we do have a higher projection target, but that's quite a ways away. Don't think it's going to do it on a Friday. Below us, I just want to mark out this fair value gap. We dipped into it once, but on the lower time frame, I want to see this fair value gap hold as support. Okay, there was probably some really big news at 8:30. I was watching this. I was hoping this fair value gap on the 1 hour will hold as support. Did not. We pretty much just liquidated all throughout this thing. Took out these lows, and it looks like we will be taking out those lows as well. So looking on the 1 hour, let's get a higher time frame look here. I think it did tap into it a little bit, into this 1 hour fair value gap. We could be coming down for, well, if we get below the, okay, here's the idea. If we get below these daily fair value gaps, I want to see it used as resistance, and we can aim for the next swing low, which is right here. In fact, this is a 1 hour candle, so we can even look for 50% of this wick as well. So keep that in mind. This could definitely be a partial. Then we take another partial here. So the difference here is about 20 points. Not terribly bad, but nothing really on the downside except for these smooth lows down here. But yeah, I mean, if you look at the price action for this whole week, we have Monday high, Tuesday's low, and we pretty much just been trading in the middle of this range. So not a whole lot of price action, good price action. But let's go ahead and take a look at what 930 has to bring. So here we are a little bit after 930. Price did come back up into this fair value gap and we dropped off, but no fair value gaps in here. 930, we came down back into that daily fair value gap, touched just the low of it, and we're kind of trading above it now. So this is not what I'm looking for. I don't want to see this as support. Remember, I want price to trade through this fair value gap, use it as resistance for the target down here. Remember that 1 hour wick, 50%, and the low of that wick. So gonna give it some more time to see what's going on. I think we could take out this high once again, and then I want to see a fair value gap to the downside or some displacement to the downside. If we don't get that, if we completely fill in this gap, then I guess we could be going for these highs again. All right, price just moved way too quickly for me today. You can see that we did come down lower below the daily fair value gap, and then we came back up, used it as resistance on just 5-minute candle only. I only went about halfway, but the bodies didn't even go into it. And then the next 5-minute candle, we pretty much just dropped off a cliff into that 1 hour wick. I'll go ahead and show you on the 1 hour chart. We have this 1 hour 50% of that wick and this low, and we just went ahead and took that out completely. So yeah, unfortunately, market just moved way too quickly for me. Did not get in on any trades today. Now we could go for this low down here. So I'll mark it out along with these lows as well. We'll see. I guess that, we do, it's only like, it's not even 10 o'clock. I guess we do have some time. We could, if we get really dramatic, we could come down to take these lows, even this low, but I'm just going to wait right here patiently until I see a pretty good setup on the 5-minute. So here's the 15-minute. You can see that we did drop down, getting close to this low on the 1 hour and these lows down here, but now we are kind of retracing back up. On the 5-minute, you can see that we are, I'm not sure. I guess let me get a closer look. Yeah, I don't know if we completely filled in the gap or not, but anyways, we have been retracing back up. I want to see displacement lower. So I'm thinking a fair value gap, and then I want to see confirmation. I don't really want to go in on the very first fair value gap, but if I see confirmation, then I'll be aiming for this low on the 1 hour, and then perhaps even looking for this lower low. All right, so 12:15 did not get anything that I was looking for. We just basically retraced back up into that daily fair value gap. Man, these daily fair value gap has played a big role this week. You can see we touched it so many times, but I was never really able to get a good setup with it for this drop down lower. I think this week not very much went on for us, but hopefully next week we'll get some more trades in. Just didn't get the right setup. But anyways, thank you guys for joining me for this backtesting session. Make sure to like this video, subscribe if you haven't done so yet, and come back for some more backtesting as we chug along 2024. But until I see you guys next time, safe trading.